We're back with Hollywood Babylon. This book gets even more crazy. So we're talking about Miss Mary Astor. So she was poised with sophistication and she was for her throaty voice. There's a pun in there somewhere. Anyway, Mary's best friend was her diary. And for whatever reason, she just threw it around. She would put it on her nightstand as any woman would. However, Mary Astor was married to a doctor. And one day, while he was looking for his cufflinks, he sits there and he goes over to the drawers and he sees her diary. Her diary was blue laced, penmanship was flowing and everything else. So he just opened it. I guess maybe curiosity must have got the cat, and curiosity definitely got her cat. So he starts reading and he's like, she's talking about his staying power. And he's going in and reading and he realizes she was definitely not talking about him. But get this, she writes in her diary because she likes to relive her moments over and over again. It's sort of like a serial killer who needs memorabilia to remember their stuff over and over again. Yeah, she remembers all her extramarital affairs in this diary that her husband has. Her husband, Dr. Throop, the more he turned those pages, the more he realized how much she was infatuated with this escapade she was having all up in her. And I'm not even going to get into what they called him, but you know, the man that just stands there and watches or whatever, they're like, he finds out the exact date that they met, which was the summer of 1933. It was 16 months from when he found this diary. And you know, just to give y'all an example of the escapades that he was reading up in there, they were going to plays, they were going to ambassadors' lunches and stuff like that. But in the middle of all of these parties and clubs and everything, they always dipped off for side action of their own. I mean, her husband even found out about the time that she told him that she had to go get her dress fitted, only to ski off and run into a hotel with Mr. Kaufman. I mean, it's mind-boggling because all she talks about is her escapades over and over and over again, and how, I mean, it was going for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 12 hours, and this girl couldn't get enough of it. And I'm like, dude, she was as if it was her only job. I swear, it sounded like a straight 9 to 5. But he would literally take her to dinner, or they'll go to lunch and then they'll go right back at it again. So fine. Thorpe sat there and he confronted his wife as soon as she got home. He's like, Mary. He showed her the diary and stuff like that. And you would think she would stop doing the diary. No. Why? This young lady recorded her husband's reaction to the affair in her diary still. And it's said that she put in her diary, my husband asked me to stop and I told him that I'll stop. And I'm only stopping because George is in town this last week and I really need to get it in. And I don't want no interruptions and I don't want my husband's soggy face looking at me all sad and depressed. And I don't want him ruining my week because I need to get this in. And I want to enjoy every bit of Kaufman. Her husband was a doctor. So when he realized that she wasn't going to stop, her husband started dating everybody in town. And he was being seen with all these stars to the point everybody was talking about Mary. Eventually, her husband sued her for a divorce and he asked for custody of his daughter. And everybody's really looking at Mary like she's crazy. She didn't care about getting a divorce. She was fine with that. But she was upset that he wanted custody of the daughter. So he was like, listen, if you contest this mess, I will put your diary out there for everybody to see. And she knew what was in there. And her diary would have messed her reputation up for the rest of her life. The evidence was just devastating. However, she couldn't face the prospect of not seeing her daughter. So she countersued July 15th just to retain custody of the child. So the first day of trial, her husband was like, listen, I have a diary for her. So the judge looked at the book and he was like, I'm not putting this as evidence. This is too much going on. So Thorpe was so upset. He was like, all right, fine. Next thing he leaked that to the press. So it was all over the newspaper and everything else. And everyone started looking and laughing. The public was having a field day with this. She was a celebrity. So a lot of her fans found out that she was John Barrymore's mistress while she was making some movie called Don Juan. The nurse to the child also came to court. So the nurse was telling everything that happened when Mary moved out. She was like, listen, Thorpe is having so many stars come to the house and they're getting into fights and arguments. He was in a fight with Norma Taylor in front of the child. And guess what? She was in the complete nude. I'm gonna tell you how the book cleaned it up. They was like, the only thing she had on was toenail polish. You know what that meant. And then, not to mention, there's another night where there was 3 showgirls there in Mr. Thorpe's bed with him right there. So after the case, needless to say, Mary won. She got her children. And the court did not return that diary. You know what they said? They was like, this is pornography. However, if this would have happened 10 years earlier, she would have been completely finished. However, during the Depression, the public's maturity level had changed. And Mary ended up finally getting a role of the lifetime called the Maltese Falcon. And of course, Kaufman moved on with his life. However, sometimes he'll get questioned about the courtroom proceedings and stuff like that. And he was like, all I'm going to say is I didn't keep a diary. I honestly want to hear from Mary because it just seems convenient that the husband happens to be extremely, extremely promiscuous. And he uses this diary that was not allowed in court and leaks it to the whole press. I mean, I'm not saying that she didn't have affairs and stuff like that, but the way it's written and even her responses is written in her diary and stuff like that. I don't know. It might have been tampered with, if you know what I mean. And the fact that she didn't even have her own diary and he's walking around, oh, I got the diary and stuff like that. I don't know. Because at the end, we find out that the husband is extremely salacious. It's just food for thought with these Hollywood Babylon. They put everything out there, like just what was found. And you have to reasonably try to figure out what may have happened. However, in 1935, after Mary Astor's explosive diary situation, it's called the case of the ice cream blonde. This was about Thelma Todd. I mean, they said this lady was unrecognizable in her car. She had an evening gown on covered up with a mink coat. However, there was blood spotted on her coat. The maid came out and found her unalive at 10:30 a.m. Monday morning, December 16th. When she opened the door, the maid knew that she had a love affair with a director, Roland West. The ignition switch was on of the car and the motor was dead. The irony is that one day she played a scene in a real movie with an actor named Groucho Marx, and they were close because that was one of her actors and stuff like that. And in one of the scenes in the movie they did, he put, "Be a good girly or I'll lock you in the garage." In court, the jury came out and they said, yeah, this is nothing but a carbon monoxide situation. That was odd because they're like, well, why was her face in such a disarray? Why did she have red substances all over her coat? It's funny because one of the witnesses was West's wife. Like I said, she was dating Mr. West. She was Mr. West's side chick. And you talking about his wife is sitting there testifying? I'm just saying, it does sound suspect. Anyway, she claimed to see her Sunday morning whizzing past the intersection of Hollywood and Vine in her convertible with a dark, handsome, unidentified man by her side. Thelma and Mr. West also co-managed Thelma Todd's roadside rest. And that was right near the scene of the crime. Also, sometime in court, they said Mr. West also admitted that him and Thelma got into it Sunday morning, like 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. He was like, I cut it short. I just pushed her outside. Because the neighbors, they heard the screaming, obscenities, and all of that stuff going on. The police also examined the door, and yeah, they had a whole bunch of fresh kick marks and everything in that door. One of her partners that was on screen with her, his name was Zazu Pitts. He also told the court that, yeah, he lent Thelma a lot of money to help with the finances of that roadside rest that her and Mr. West co-managed together. Mr. Lupiano testified that Thelma told him that she was cheating on West with another businessman from San Francisco. Thelma's lawyer demanded them to look into that case again. He felt like it was a professional job. You know what a professional job is? Marksman. And that he was working for Lucky Louisiano. They said that he wanted to take over the upper level of her cafe. And he wanted to build a secret, crooked casino going on up there. And that she was supposed to populate with fashionable customers from all her famous friends and stuff like that. The lawyer was like, the fact that she turned him down, that her life was already signed, sealed, and delivered. They was like that. The producer, Hal Roach, they turned gray at the mention of Luciano's name. Like, nobody was going to testify against this man. So everybody got quiet. So it was suspected but never proven that some sort of event that was staged went on. And it was arranged by West and a girlfriend that they made to look like Thelma. They felt that that was the kicking of the door and storming off that all the neighbors saw. They said that while behind the door, West knocked Thelma out, placed her in the car, turned on the ignition, closed the door, and then the garage theory happened. They said that West had wanted to break off their deteriorating relationship for a long time and to commit, like a film he did called Alibi. However, real proof did not come to light. And West did one more picture, and it was a big picture. It was called Lon Chaney and the Monster and Chester Morris and the Bat Whisperer. They were one of his most extraordinary thrillers. After that, he never made another picture. He married Lola Lane and passed away in 1952. However, the fans will always miss Thelma, and she will forever go down as the ice cream blonde. And her situation will always remain in Hollywood's most vexing enigmas.